since July.
We've seen kids of all ages who have been hospitalized with COVID-19. So this vaccine is going to be very good.
Hello and welcome to KGW News at 5 o'clock. We begin here at 5 with big news on the COVID vaccine front. Today, Pfizer announced its vaccine is safe and effective for kids ages 5 to 11 based on its data.
This comes as COVID cases are rising among kids. Tim Gordon takes a look at what happens next and what it will take for kids to start getting the vaccine.
It is a difficult time for families. Schools are back in session while the Delta variant is making more kids sick. Now Pfizer says its vaccine, with just a third of the normal dose, is safe and effective for children 5 to 11 years old. The drug maker plans to apply for emergency use authorization by the end of the month, but there are several more steps required before the FDA and CDC allow the vaccine into the arms of children across the country. Dr. Wendy Hassan is medical director of the pediatric ICU at Randall Children's Hospital. She's also a parent.
I personally have a child myself that isn't of the age to be vaccinated, so I'm navigating a lot of these issues myself, and so seeing this information be released is just a huge sigh of relief.
Randall Children's Hospital sees the sickest of the sick, and it's treating the effects of the coronavirus.
I've taken care of quite a few children with COVID. I have not admitted to my ICU a single vaccinated patient. Every single patient that I've admitted on a ventilator or on heart support have been unvaccinated patients.
While Dr. Hassan expects the Pfizer vaccine to be approved for use, she is concerned not enough parents will protect their kids with it. Looking at vaccination rates for already eligible adolescents explains the concern. So far in Oregon, just 51% of those 12 to 17 are fully vaccinated. In Washington state, the percentage is 46.6%.
I am concerned that I worry that that number will be even lower in the younger population because I think in general people are just more cautious with smaller children. And so I think that the pediatrics community has a long road ahead of them.
Vaccinating our kids for influenza or other things like chickenpox or polio is nothing new. And with a dangerous virus in our midst, doctors like Wendy Hassan wish more people would trust them and follow their lead.
I have been just living and breathing this, right? Because it means everything to me, and I'm a parent. And so I will tell you that, I'm going to look at this data very, very closely, but if this data, it shows that it's safe, which is what I anticipate, I will be the first in line to vaccinate my own child.
Dr. Hassan talks about looking at the data, and there is more of that to come from Pfizer. It is all part of the vetting and approval process, but if all goes well, the vaccine should be available for kids sometime in late October, and then they'll be protected and be able to get a card like this. Tim Gordon, KGW News.
Today, the Biden administration also announced that fully vaccinated foreign travelers will be able to come to the U.S. The travel restrictions will ease beginning in November. Travelers will need proof of vaccination as well as a negative COVID test taken within 3 days of their flight. Rules for unvaccinated Americans returning home will also be tightened. They'll need to be tested within a day of traveling as well as after arriving.
Starting this week, Portland parents will be able to start opting in to free COVID-19 screen testing. Christine Pitawanich spoke to parents and takes a look at how it will work.
Starting this week, Portland parents will begin hearing from their school principals, asking if they'd like to sign a consent form and opt in to free COVID-19 screen testing.
My name is Rochelle Chase Miller. I have 2 kids. One is a 3rd grader in PPS, and my youngest is in preschool.
In-person school for her 3rd grader Leo has been going well, but that's not to say she isn't worried about COVID or the Delta variant. Plus, neither of her kids are old enough to get the vaccine.
Out of my 2 kids, obviously worried for both of them, but more concerned about my oldest. He has cerebral palsy and asthma, and I'll feel better knowing, what his status is.
That's why she's planning to opt in to Portland Public Schools' free COVID-19 screen testing.
I think it is a really useful tool. I actually wish that it was an opt-out situation.
Here's how it'll work. Each week, kids that have opted in will get a test kit. They'll take it home, collect a spit sample, then bring it back to school the next day. That sample then goes to OHSU for processing. Families will have results within 48 hours. Mom, Catherine Schmidt, intends to opt in as well.
And I have two daughters. Merritt is 10 and is in 5th grade, and Ellery is 13 and is in 8th grade. So I will do, at this point, really anything that will keep our kids in schools.
Schmidt's concern that her 10-year-old isn't vaccinated, and also her older daughter's school environment.
The middle schools are certainly more crowded and there's more movement from class to class. So I think that's been something to give us a little bit more of a pause. You can't really test kids, or at least a non-vaccinated child, too many times, in my opinion.
I hope that other parents continue to think not just about their children, but the children that they share space with, and take care of each other.
To be tested, kids don't have to be showing symptoms. At this point, the district plans to prioritize grades K through 5 because kids at that age still can't get the vaccine. After that, middle and high schoolers will be the focus. Christine Pitawanich, KGW News.
A potential problem for Portland area parents. The Portland Public School District is canceling some bus routes due to driver shortages. The affected routes are used by students at Benson and Lincoln high schools. Dozens of other routes are also being changed. The district usually has around 300 bus drivers, but officials say right now there are about 82 drivers short.
The city of Troutdale is offering big incentives for restaurants to relocate there. The city will waive up to $150,000 of a restaurant sewer system development charge.
We actually just passed a new sewer SDC subsidy program. And the SDCs are system development charges, and they're the fees that new businesses have to pay when they're coming to the city. And
2 years ago, the city started waiving up to 50% of those costs for restaurants. Now it's going to be under $50,000. A spokesperson for the city says the new program will begin at the start of 2022 and will run through June of 2021.
A staff member at an elementary school in Newburgh is on leave today because she showed up to work wearing blackface. This all happened Friday at Mabel Rush Elementary School in Newburgh. The school district says she was removed from the school and put on administrative leave. It's happening a week after a student was caught in a social media chat called Slave Trade. That's where black students at Newburgh High School had their pictures posted without their consent, and other kids would bid on them in a mock slave auction. It also comes after the Newburgh School Board passed a ban on Black Lives Matter and pride displays in schools.
I'm horrified, angry, and ashamed that this has happened, as is nearly every other staff member. The students of color of Newburgh deserve so much more. This goes against everything I and the vast majority of NSD staff believe, and it is unfathomably offensive.
According to reporter Ryan Clark, who you see here with the Newburgh graphic, the staff member was protesting the school vaccine mandate and comparing herself to Rosa Parks. We're going to talk with Ryan about that a bit more, and all this stuff happening right now in Newburgh coming up at 6 o'clock on this story.
Drama in Salem today surrounding the special session for redistricting in Oregon. This afternoon, the Senate passed the new legislative maps on a party line vote. But it's more complicated in the House, where Democrats need some Republican support to pass the maps out of committee. So this afternoon, House Speaker Tina Kotek announced she will appoint a new committee with Democrats in the majority. Democrats will now be able to approve the maps without any Republican support. That also goes against a deal she previously struck with Republicans. Republicans are furious, accusing Democrats of gerrymandering. This is a process that only happens every 10 years and will decide who represents Oregonians both on the state and the federal level. KGW's Pat Doris takes a closer look at how it works and what happens if the parties can't pass the maps by the September 27th deadline.
On the federal level, Oregon is getting another representative in Congress because our population grew. It's the first time in 40 years that's happened. That new representative needs a district and people to represent. The task of drawing that new district allows map makers to change all the other district boundaries as well. And that should matter to you. Because if, for example, you love trees and right now you're grouped with a bunch of other voters who also love trees and your representative loves trees, You have a voice in Congress. But what if under the new map and new district boundaries, you're suddenly lumped in with a bunch of different voters and they love flowers more than trees? In fact, they don't like trees at all, and they elect someone who loves flowers more than trees. Now your voice is ignored. See how that works? Under federal rules, each district in the state has to have the same population size, give or take one person. How's that for exacting? It's important not just to you, but also to the political parties. And to them, even more importantly, it's not about how many people, it's about how those people vote. Each side wants to protect what they have and maybe erode the other side a bit. In Oregon, that means Democrats want many of the new districts connected to the highly Democratic voting Portland area. Here's their proposed congressional map. See how many parts of the map touch the greater Portland area? According to the blog 538, it creates 5 mostly safe seats for them in Congress and 1 safe seat for Republicans, covering much of eastern Oregon. The Republican proposal for the district shrinks the 1st and 3rd districts and keeps them in Washington and Multnomah counties, basically bottling up all those Democratic votes. It keeps the 2nd district roughly the same and safe for Republicans, but the other 3 districts would be highly competitive and give Republicans a shot at maybe winning those, according to 538. Lawmakers are also redrawing maps for state legislative districts, and the same pressures and opportunities apply. If they cannot agree on a new map, Secretary of State Shemia Fagan, a Democrat, will take over the legislative map process, and a panel of judges will take over the congressional maps.
That was Pat Doris reporting.